Let's now formally start with it. So basically, the purpose of the today's session is to show you three things mainly. First of all, in the today's session, we will see the types of the questions that have been asked in this year's paper, that is the 2021 paper that has been held. Secondly, we'll also try to discuss the approach that is needed. Fine. We'll try to discuss the approach that is needed. And thirdly, we will try to see that what is the orientation of your content that needs to be there. Clear? Because we know this particular thing, that if you see the questions will not be that much hard that you cannot answer them, but the type of content which you should write, which will be giving you the marks above the average, the marks by which you can score the triple digit 140 marks, 145 marks, because in the past such marks have been scored. So how to reach to that particular level, this is the type of approach that we are going to see here. So the types of questions, the approach and the content will be the major focus of this particular discussion. Is it clear? We will be taking up the entire discussion of our section number A, and in the section number B, the case studies. What needs to be the mindset to solve the case studies will be seeing, and we will also be then be seeing some of the other case studies, some of the case studies asked here in terms of the solutions also we'll see here. Now, let's start with the discussion. First of all, what has been the pattern of the questions that have been asked this year? So here we can see that first of all, the paper was fairly distributed. Okay, the questions have been asked almost from all the sections which were there. Fine. We can find that first of all, in the foundational values there have been the questions, and foundational values, that has been the topic number 5. In fact, the large number of questions have been asked from here. Here we can see okay. So first of all is the foundational values. In the foundational values, we can find that the 3 questions have been asked this particular year, worth of 30 marks question has been there. Then the category number 2, from where the question has come. These are the quote-based questions. I call them as a philosophical type of questions because of a particular reason that we'll see here. So from the quote-based categories, now we see that every year around 3 questions are being asked, and the same trend has been repeated this year also. The 3 questions, again, the 30 marks worth of question has been asked from this particular category, that is the quote-based question. Then the third, it is the question from the applied ethics. So from the applied ethics that is contained in our GS, topic number 1. Fine, from there also the questions have been asked. Here the 2 questions were asked. Then the 1 question from aptitude was asked, 1 question from attitude was asked, 1 question from emotional intelligence, 1 question from administrative ethics, and 1 question from the human values. So in total, we see this particular thing, that there are the 7 topics or 7 segments that are mentioned in our syllabus by the UPSC, and so therefore the paper was fairly balanced. Fine, almost from all the major themes that have been there, the questions have been asked. Fine. In terms of marks distribution, the section number A, it was of 130 marks, and the section number B, that is the case study, it was 120 marks. Fine. So that has been. Now, further, let's now, without ado, start seeing the questions that have been asked. Now, first of all, my take on the level of questions in terms of the difficulty that was there. I will call that the paper was not that much difficult. I will say that the paper was moderate. But again, the paper was moderate. So what will matter? It will matter that what type of content that you are reproducing here. What are the things that you are writing which makes your answer a little bit different from the answers of the other students. Fine. So first of all, let's see. I hope that it is visible on your screen. Okay. So let's see first of all the first question, question number 1A, that is there. Question number 1A, what it says? It says, identify the 5 ethical traits on which one can plot the performance of a civil servant. Justify their inclusion in the metric. Identify the 5 ethical traits on which we can plot the performance of a civil servant. So first of all, what do we understand by the ethical trait? Now, ethical trait, when we talk about it, they can simply be defined as the characteristics, or they can simply be defined as the qualities of your character. Now, when the civil services or the civil servants are concerned, they have been given a particular objective, and that objective is to serve the society. And in order to fulfill this particular objective, certain characteristics, certain qualities need to be there into the civil servants. And only if these qualities will be there, they will be able to discharge their duties in an effective and efficient manner. So obviously there are certain traits that need to be there. Now you need to write 5 of those traits, and not only you need to write these traits, you need to justify also. Justify. You need to justify that why you have included these particular traits. So into the present circumstances, why they become important, this thing is also that you have to show. Is it clear? And when you are able to strike a balance in showing the traits and in justifying them, then only you will be getting the marks above the average. Is it clear? Now, one more thing I want to clarify here. First of all, when we talk about the traits, there is one more similar kind of word that is there, the values. Many a times the traits and values, they are believed to be the same, not at all a problem. But however, if we talk about the traits and values, there is a little bit difference that is there. Fine. Now the traits, they are believed to be more inborn. Is that clear? The traits, they are believed to be more inborn. Fine. However, when we talk about the values, values could be changed, values could be acquired, many such ways. The values could be acquired, it could be modified. Now, when we discuss about this particular question, you need not to too much fixate onto this particular thing. Okay, the trait is something different, value is something different. Is it clear? However, as a matter of concept, the difference I had explained to you. Now, moving into the question. So, what are the 5 ethical traits? So, now, 5 ethical traits. Now, here, the first ethical trait that we can talk about here is the trait of responsiveness that needs to be there. Responsiveness that needs to be there. Now, basically, there are the 2 ways in which you can approach this particular question. Number 1, what you can do, you can write the 5 traits and then one by one you can justify them. The better and the second approach, the better approach, which I believe will be this, that you write one particular trait and there only you explain the importance of that particular trait, why it is needed. So this could be a better approach in which we can talk. So talking about the 5 traits, the first trait we can talk is the trait of responsiveness that is very much needed into the civil servants today. Why it is needed? Number 1, when we see today the public servants, they are plagued with some of very big problems. For example, few days back, the Supreme Court had provided this thing that the bureaucracy in India, it is plagued with the bureaucratic inertia. They are plagued with the bureaucratic inertia. This particular observation by the Supreme Court was given into the aftermath of pollution problem into the North India. So there is a bureaucratic inertia that is there. Point number 1, bureaucratic inertia that is there. Secondly, what happens if you read the second ARC? Second ARC had said this particular thing, that the problem of bureaucracy in India is this, that the bureaucracy, it is not citizen centric. So there is a need of citizen centricity into the bureaucracy. Now, why they are not citizen centric? So there is a need of citizen centricity. Why the bureaucrats are not citizen centric? It is because the responsiveness is missing there. They are not able to respond to the problems of people. They are not able to respond the crises that are emerging into the society. Thirdly, we find this particular thing. That what has happened after the 1991 LPG reforms that have been there is a new notion into the concept of citizenship that has come. Today, the citizens, they are not just the political entity. Today, the citizens, they are the consumer citizens. They are the consumer citizens. Now, what is this idea of consumer citizens? Seeing citizen as a political entity, it means that, okay, citizen, by the virtue of his citizenship, has certain rights into a state. It will deserve certain entitlements into a state. Now, when this particular idea that he will receive certain entitlements, it is there, clear, often the accountability is not that much robust. But now, when the idea of consumer citizens comes, a new kind of one more dimension is added. The idea comes here that not just the citizen is a political entity, but citizen is also an economic entity. What citizen is doing? Citizen is paying the taxes. Citizen is paying the taxes, and because of that particular thing, citizen also becomes a consumer. And as a consumer can ask the accountability of a service provider, into the same way, today the notion of consumer citizen is this, that you can also ask the accountability of a state. You can ask the good quality of goods and services. Right? So therefore, today if we see, the notion of citizen has changed to the consumer citizens. Today, the citizen centricity is the need of hour, and today the bureaucratic inertia is also very much high. And all these particular things can be solved directly if the citizens, if the civil servants, they are responsive. If citizens, bureaucrats are responsive, if there is a sense of urgency, if there is a sense of urgency, all these particular problems can be solved. The problem of bureaucratic inertia, responsiveness is not there. They are not taking actions. Is it clear? It can be solved. Citizen centricity. Is it clear? Taking the regard of the citizens' grievances, citizens' problems. Many a times the apathy is there. You go into a government office. What happens? They are sending you from one counter to another counter. Nobody is ready to attend to you. Why? Responsiveness is not there. And right, attending to the problems, again the consumer citizen notion can also be fulfilled if responsiveness is there. So because of all these three reasons, we can say that the responsiveness happens to be a very important attribute. Is it clear? This is one thing. After that, the second value that the second trait that will be there. Now the second trait, this is the second I will believe that you should write. It is the emotional receptivity. You can call it as emotional receptivity. You can call it as an emotional intelligence. Fine, emotional wisdom. So it will be emotional receptivity. Now see this particular thing. Basically, we are living in the times of pandemic, and as we are living in the times of pandemic, these times have been called as a kind of an existential crisis have come on the humanity. And into this existential crisis, human sufferings, human miseries, is it clear? It is a very big concern. Today, if you see into the economic sphere, there are the miseries. In terms of health, there are the miseries. Is it clear? So therefore, today the civil servants, they need to show this emotional receptivity. They need to reach the people into the times of crisis. Now see this particular thing. When we talk about today, find the attitude of the civil servants. Now basically today the bureaucrats, they are positioning them also as the agents of bringing the change, and this particular change needs to account the emotional aspects of the people. See, wiping every tear from every eye, wiping every tear from every eye, government with a human touch, government with a human touch. Now these are the taglines of the governance, and these things, wiping every tear from every eye, governance with a human touch, only these things can be met if an emotional receptivity is there. And into the times of crisis and times of pandemic, this thing becomes very much important. Migrant crisis happened in the 2020 when the reverse migration was there. Repeated waves of lockdown has been there, and into these repeated waves of lockdown, people are losing their livelihood. People are not able to sustain themselves. So therefore, in order to come with a reform for themselves, the civil servants, the bureaucrats, they need to have such emotional receptivity. They need to understand such emotional crisis and need to come out with a solution. So this trait becomes very much important into the present times of pandemic. But then third trait that is important. Now the third trait will be the trait of prudence. Prudence. Now what do we mean by the prudence? Prudence means a sense of wisdom. Clear? So the prudence needs to be a very important, prudence is a very important ethical trait in a civil servant. Why? Why? Two very big important reasons are there. Reason number one, basically the human needs and the human needs and the resources, there is a kind of a problem that the needs are unlimited and the resources are limited. Into the resources are limited and needs are unlimited. And why these limited resources meeting the needs? It is a very big problem. And when we talk about India, India has always been plagued by the challenges where the physical resource have always been limited. The financial resource has been very much limited. The capacity of the state is very much limited. And now what has happened? The pandemic has come. Into this particular pandemic, such limited resources, they have shrunk even more. Clear? We see this particular thing that the again and again lockdowns are being imposed because of that particular thing. India's GDP growth, India's GDP last year, fine, we have seen that actually economic contraction has happened. The economic contraction has happened. Fine. So because of this economic contraction, the wisdom into the civil servants need to be there so that they can make sure that how the resources can be used. Is it clear? So the prudence needs to be there. Why? Because the resources are limited, resource crunch is there. And second reason being that into the times of pandemic, the most wise utilization of resources needs to be there. Is that clear? Unlimited aspirations are there, but limited capacities are there. Unlimited aspirations, limited capacities. Please use these particular types of expressions into your answers. So by this particular thing, we can say that the prudence happens to be a very important trait into the civil servant. Then fourth trait that will be there, okay, it needs to be. Now see, before moving into the fourth trait, I need to talk upon one particular concept. See this thing. See this thing. There are two of the things. One is objectivity and other is subjectivity. Objectivity and subjectivity. First of all, what is the objectivity? Objectivity simply means that whatever decision you are taking, that particular decision needs to be based on it needs to be based on rules, it needs to be based on procedures, prejudices need not to be there, stereotypes should not be there, fine, your subjective assessment should not be there. Is it clear? Whatever decision you are taking, it should be based on hard data, it should be based on uh, objective facts. Your decision should be based on fact and data. This is the objectivity. Now see this particular thing. When we talk about objectivity, objectivity happens to be an important value for the civil servant. Fine, they need to be objective. But at the same times, sometimes the subjectivity is also equally important. See this particular thing. Why subjectivity is important? One example we can take here. The example goes like this. That suppose you are a civil servant, you're a public official, and you have been given a charge that you need to provide the subsidized food grains to the poor people. Here, and you have been said that okay, you need to see two of the documents. Let's say one is Aadhaar card and other is a ration card. See these documents, and anybody who is having these documents, provide them the food. Otherwise, don't provide them the food. No, you want to be objective. What you are doing? Everybody coming and showing these documents, you are giving them the food. People not having these documents, you are denying them the food. Now let's say that there is one very poor lady has come. Fine, she is poor, she is old, and she is having three kids. Now this poor ladies, these are the grandkids. Okay, these grandkids, they have lost their mother and father, and now this old lady, she is looking after them, and she is very poor. She is not able to feed them. Now she comes with you, and she is able to show you only one document. Clear, she is not able to show you the other document. But by your experience, okay, you ascertained this particular fact. Though document is not there, you ascertained that she can procure the document. Right now, it is not there with that woman. Now, just tell me this thing. You being objective, you should deny the women that, okay, I will not give you the food. But here, if you deny the women the food, are you behaving in an ethical capacity? Are you behaving in an ethical capacity? No, you are not behaving in an ethical capacity, though you have been objective. But the civil servants, you have to do your job just like a robot, or you have to deliver the justice onto the ground? You have to deliver the justice onto the ground also. The concept of Amartya Sen comes here. Amartya Sen had given the Niti versus Nyay, and Amartya Sen provides that the Nyay is more important. Nyay means that whether the justice is being delivered onto the ground or not, the Nyay is more important. Niti is just following the rules. So is important, but sometimes Nyay is more important. And now coming back here, if you are just following the objectivity, you are following the Niti, Yes, you are following your duty, you are following what is mandated on you, but sometimes little bit of subjectivity is also needed in order to deliver the justice onto the ground. So objectivity is more important or subjectivity is more important? Is it clear? First of all, in itself is a kind of a debate which has not been settled. Now, what you can write, what you can write as a fourth trait. The fourth trait that you can write is that what is important is objective subjective. Objective subjectivity. What is important is objective subjectivity. What is this objective subjectivity now? It means that at times we can be subjective, we can take the decision on the basis of our own personal assessment of the situation, but that subjectivity will also be based on objective grounds. What objective grounds? Arbitrariness need not to be there. Fine. Justification should be there. Rule needs to be adhered to the maximum capacity. Fine. So a one trait needs to be the objective subjectivity, where you will be objective, but at the times the subjectivity can also be resorted so that you can fulfill the spirit of your job. Is it clear? So the fourth trait will be this, and then the fifth trait will be the integrity. It will be the integrity. Integrity. What do we mean by integrity? Integrity is a it is the integrity you can call that. Number one, you need to have the highest moral standards. You need to have the highest moral standards. Secondly, you need not to just have the highest moral standards, you need to behave as per those moral standards. Is it clear? Integrity means, integrity, the word has been derived from, the word integrity has been derived from the word integer. It means to act as a whole. Integrity means, number one, you need to have the highest moral principles. Number two, you need to not only have these highest moral principles in your mind, rather, you should also preach such highest moral principles. And third, you need to act as per such highest moral principles. So what will be the integrity? Integrity will be the quality where, number one, you had maintained the highest moral standards. Secondly, you are not only just maintaining the highest moral standards, you are advocating those moral standards, and you yourself is living as per those moral standards. So here you can see in between, here you can see in between, here the integrity lies where you have maintained, you have just you have you have just internalized the highest moral principles. After internalization, you are advocating them actively, and not only advocating, you are yourself following it. Integrity is a non-negotiable quality. Even when the situations are dire, you will be following the integrity. So we can say that these are the 5 traits that are needed. And now, why the integrity is needed? Integrity is needed in order to make sure that the corruption is not there, nepotism is, favoritism is not, the abuse of power is not there. Why? Because these are the biggest malice which are plaguing the India right now. So therefore, the integrity, so that a wholesome character can be portrayed, is also needed. Okay? So by this particular manner, these are the 5 ethical traits that need to be there into the civil servants, and the justifications in all of them also we have provided. Now, just as I am explaining you, okay, there might be a kind of a thing that, okay, the word limit, you might not be able to adhere to 150 words. This is just the idea that should be there in your mind. Is it clear? You have to compress such kind of an idea, and in 135 to 140 words, you need to present it. Is it clear? So that is all about this particular question number 1. That is the question number 1A. Clear? Okay, so is this thing clear to everyone? Okay, is this thing clear to everyone? Okay, just a minute. Okay, you can write your questions into the chat box. If there is any kind of a question, if any kind of a doubt is there, you can write that into the chat box, and I will be addressing those questions one by one as they are coming. Okay, up till now, if there is any doubt, up till now, if there is any doubt, that enabled enough. Okay, I got a doubt here, sir. What does justify in the matrix here means? Justify in the matrix, it means that whatever the 5 ethical traits you are coming out, clear? Fine, a metric, justify their inclusion in matrix. What matrix you have brought? Just these 5 values that, sorry, these 5 traits that you are coming out with. Why you included these 5? You have to justify it. So just don't go, okay, कि यहाँ पे matrix पूछ दिया है, बड़ा कुछ ज़्यादा अलग आ जाएगा, नहीं. Just you need to identify that why you have included them in the list that you have come out with. Fine, just that is the case. Okay, yes, any other doubt? Okay, any other doubt here? Okay, no, fine, good. Okay, apart from these 5 points, anything also else we have to write? See, apart from that also there are many other kind of traits are also there, but as they are just asking about these 5 traits, okay, I'll not advise you to go beyond that, because many times in ethics a problem comes that we are not able to complete our answer in the time. So already you are running on a, you are already in a rush, so beyond that don't go. Clear? Just you can provide a introduction first, and into the introduction what you will be talking upon, you will be talking about the ethical traits, or you can just explain that what do you understand by the trait. You can just provide that how the traits drives a person's behavior. A trait, the type of trait that is having those kind of your traits will decide the type of actions that you are taking. So therefore, first of all, the traits need to be there. Fine, ethical traits need to be. Okay, in conclusion, see, in conclusion, simply, number one, your conclusion needs to be very crisp. Your conclusion needs to be very crisp. Crisp conclusion needs to be there. In conclusion, what you need to do, you can simply provide this particular thing. देखो, अगर आपको कोई reference पता है तो आप reference डाल सकते हो. For example, the Nolan Committee of 1994, the Nolan Committee of 1994, at that point of a time, Nolan Committee provided this particular thing, that the Nolan Committee was constituted in, it provided this thing that the major crises into the governance and public administration are not because of the structural problems, they are because of the non-inculcation of ethical values and non-present the lack of the ethical traits into the civil servants. So as the ethical traits, if they will be there, a structural integrity, a robustness can be brought into the civil services. You can provide about this here. Now, जैसे मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि that you can conclude by giving a reference, you can also give here the reference of the second ARC. What second ARC provided? Second ARC provided this particular thing, that the laws can deter a perverse mind, the laws can deter a perverse mind, but not a perverse heart. So heart needs to be good, and when the heart needs to be good, the ethical traits come. So by having the ethical traits, we can ensure a robustness, we can ensure a resilience into the civil services. So therefore, above mentioned traits becomes very much important, or they become indispensable. So this is just a 2 lines, 3 lines conclusion that you can give. Fine. Okay, is this thing clear now? Okay, is this thing clear now? तो ज्यादा देखो, अगर ये वाले नहीं पता सोर्सेस, सेकेंड एआर से नहीं पता, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. ये नॉलन कमेटी के बारे में नहीं पता, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. जस्ट आपको क्या करना है, यू कैन जस्टिफाई दैट ओके समटाइम्स द लॉज माइट नॉट एबल टू ब्रिंग द रेजिलियंस इन द, समटाइम्स द लॉज माइट नॉट एबल टू bring a ethical resilience into a system. So therefore, the ethical traits becomes important. So therefore, such traits are needed to be included, or they are indispensable for the civil services. This is a way. Now moving to the next question. Moving to the next question, that is the question number 1B. Now what this particular question was. So, okay, so let's read the question first of all. Question says, identify 10 essential values that are needed to be an effective public servant. Describe the ways and means to prevent non-ethical behavior in public servants. Here, 150 words. Now this I will call, it is a lengthy question. It is a lengthy question. Why? Number one, the 10 values are being asked here. So अब यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि that you will just write these 10 values. Fine. You need to write the value number 1, and then you need to just write 1 or 1.5 line onto this particular value. Clear? So in this particular thing, when you are just writing the 10 values, you will exhaust around 15, 16, 17 lines here. Okay? That is bare minimum that will go. Then you need to address the second part of the question. Describe the ways and means to prevent a non-ethical behavior. Now, when you are describing the means or the ways to prevent the non-ethical behavior, here also you will be consuming a substantial length, substantial number of words you have to write here. So be very careful into such kind of questions. Make sure that you are not overflowing here. Is it clear or not? Because of these questions, many a times you waste a lot of time into the exam, and then towards the last you are running in a hurry. So be very careful when such kind of questions come. Okay, so what they are talking about, 10 essential values. It is talking about the 10 essential values. Now, first of all, how values are needed to be an effective public servant. How values are needed to be an effective public servant. Understand this particular thing. So, how the values are needed to be an effective public servant. See this thing. I am just making a type of a schematic here. Try to understand. Number one, there are the values. What are the values? Values are simply the parameters or yardsticks on whose basis we assess the desirable. Fine, what is important to me? I will judge onto the basis of my values. What is important to you? You will judge onto the basis of your value. So therefore, what is value? Value can simply be defined as the yardsticks or the parameters on which we assess the desirability of any choice, desirability of any action, desirability of any behavior. Suppose I have the value of honesty. Fine. So obviously, I will appreciate the honest behaviors. Let's say a person is doing a dishonest behavior. Fine, I will see that. I will not appreciate it. Why? Because it is not corresponding to my value system. So therefore, the values are simply the yardsticks or the parameters which help you to assess the desirability of any action, desirability of any choice, desirability of any behavior. Now, see this particular thing, that they are the values. Now, what happens? The values will lay down the standard of your behavior. Okay, an honest person will be behaving as per honesty. A loyal person will be always adhering to the loyalty. So, whatever the values are there, the values will establish the standard of your behavior. Fine. On to such standards of behaviors on the value system, what will happen? Your attitude will be shaped. Your attitudes will be shaped. On to the basis of your attitudes, your choices will be shaped. On to the basis of your choices, your action conducted. Your action will be conducted. Now see this particular thing. Okay. So when a public servant is there, clear, we will be judging the public servant's action. We will be judging the public servant's action, public servant's behavior. Now, as the public servant is doing certain action, certain behavior, how to tell whether that particular action is effective or not? If action is effective, we can say that the public servant is effective. If his action, if his behavior is effective, we can say that the public servant is effective. Now, what do we mean by the effective action? Or what do we mean by the effective behavior? A question comes here. So what is an effective behavior? Effective behavior by a public servant I'm talking. Effective behavior by a public servant is one which is fulfilling the three things. What are these three things? Number one, it should fulfill Surajya. It should fulfill the Surajya, the good governance. Second, it should fulfill the Secondly, it should fulfill the Sarvodaya. Everybody's welfare, everybody's upliftment should come. And thirdly, it should fulfill Antayodaya. Now, the last person in the proverbial line, the last of the last person, okay, the most deprived of the deprived person should also get the maximum benefit. So, देखो, the state has a vision. The state has a vision. The state has a particular motto that is there. Now, what is the vision of a state? Surajya, good governance. Sarvodaya, everybody's welfare. Antyodaya, the welfare of the deprived, the most vulnerable ones. Now, the civil servants whose action are corresponding to this, that civil servant will be effective civil servant. Clear? Now, your actions directly flow from your values. What your values will be, the same action you will be. Clear? Now, these action is needed, so therefore a particular type of values are needed. And which type of values? The 10 values which we'll now be talking upon. See, the purpose here is not just to answer the question which is here. The purpose of this particular discussion is also to give you much more insight so that you can use them for future also. देखो ये वाला question तो आ गया है ना. So certain concepts should also be given which you can use later words in your journey. Okay, so this is first of all a link that you should understand. देखो effective का मतलब क्या होता है? What do we mean by the effective? Effective means to produce the desired result. There is two words, one is effective, other is efficient. Efficient means producing the desired result within the minimum of the resources, and effective is producing the result which is very much corresponding to the vision. So two things are there. Now moving on, the 10 values. Okay, just a minute. Now, the 10 values we need to write. See, when we are writing about the 10 values, first of all, you can give certain references if you want. And giving a references before talking about a value, actually it is a kind of a very good strategy. ठीक है, तो हम यहाँ पे क्या क्या references दे सकते हैं? You can give the references of the values. There is a Nolan Committee's reference that you can. You can give the reference of National Training Policy of 1990. You can give the reference of the second ARC. Fine. Then you can give the reference of the Code of Good Governance of Spain. All these are some of the references which had talked about the most desirable values. In सबने बात करी है the most desirable values to be an effective public servant. Is it clear? Now it is not needed that all the values which they have talked, all the values you have to write. Just you can give their reference here. Clear? So, for example, the Nolan Committee talked about the 7 values. It talked about the objectivity. Second is honesty. It talks about integrity. It talks about openness. Then it talks about the selflessness. Then it talks about the accountability. And the 7th, it talked about the leadership. Clear? When we talk about the National Training Policy of 1996, it had talked about the 4 most important values to be the effective public servant. It talked about the responsiveness, commitment, awareness, and accountability. Clear? Responsiveness, commitment, awareness, and accountability. Okay? Then the second ARC. Second ARC report number 10. It has also talked about certain values to be the effective public servant. It had talked about the integrity, dedication to public services. It talked about the political neutrality, impartiality, and the anonymity. Clear? Anonymity, political neutrality, impartiality, dedication to public services, and integrity it has talked about. Then we have the Code of Good Governance of Spain. Now, the Code of Good Governance of Spain, there are many values that are written. Is it clear? Many values are written here. I think more than 25 to 30 values they are written there. So, यहाँ पे अब ये सारी values बताने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. But yes, the values which we have discussed here, it also the Code of Good Governance of Spain also includes those kind of values. Yeah. Now, what the purpose is? Purpose is just if you can give the reference of such kind of committees, if you can just give the reference, you not need to necessarily tell that okay, it talked about this particularly. If you can do well, fine. But अगर नहीं भी पता आपको, तो just reference will give some kind of a edge to your answer. Is it clear? Now, let's move on. Out of them, the 10 most desirable values will be taken. Out of them, the 10 most desirable values. First value that will be important, the first value that will be important will be the value of integrity. The value of integrity. Now, as you are showing these values, it also shows the priority order. Now, number one is the value of integrity. तो जब integrity का मतलब क्या है? We have just seen it into the question number 1A. What you can do, you can just define the integrity in one line or two line, clear? And then, when if possible, I always say that please be very much updated into the with the newspapers, and from time to time there are certain from time to time there will be certain kind of examples that will be coming into the newspaper. Just include those examples also if it is possible. Is it clear? So integrity, just explain it in one line. Already in question number 1A we have seen that particular thing, that the integrity pertains to the highest adherence of the moral principles, moral standards, maintaining the moral standards, advocating the moral standards, and behaving as per those moral standards. And the examples of integrity we can see in the conduct of IS officer Ashok Khemka. The conduct of IS officer Ashok Khemka, who was transferred during his course of into the course of his job, who was transferred to nearly more than 50 times. Fine, because he had exposed many of the cases where the government corporate nexus was there. The politicians were abusing their power, particularly into the land deal of the Gurugram. Fine, he exposed a multi-crore rupees scam, or a multi-crore rupees kind of a issue that was there. Clear? So the integrity of Ashok Khemka. Then, in respect to the integrity, you can give the example of U Sagayam, who exposed the multi-crore rupees granite scam going into the Tamil Nadu, and for that particular thing he was intimidated. Now see this particular thing, both of the people, Ashok Khemka and U Sagayam, they got intimidated for the performance of their duty. They were punished into the form of frequent transfers, but they did not compromise. They maintain the integrity even into such tough times. So integrity is needed in such kind of matters to expose the corruption, to make sure that the rightful utilization of resources is there, misutilization of resources is not there, corruption is not there, and to uphold the rule of law, the integrity is needed. So आपको करना क्या है, in 10 values के अंदर में just in one line explain the value. If you have in your mind, give the example of one or two officers also. Fine, you can just do this particular thing. Now further moving on, the second value. Now thoda sa we will be doing little bit, we will be moving with the pace. So the second value will be then, the second value which you can talk about is the value of dedication. The second value is the value of the dedication. Now the dedication of job, dedication with the work will make sure that the work is not making you feel tired. The work is not making you exhausted. A dedication of the work is very much needed. अब देखो dedication क्यों जरूरी है? Because when we see India has its own limitations in terms of resource crunch, physical resource, human resource, financial resource. So therefore, whatever the public servants are, they need to devote themselves. Is that clear? So the dedication is very much important. Now the dedication is a quality of showing the utmost devotion to your work. Dedication provides that your work will become the source of joy for you, and the dedication is very much needed and can be seen in the conduct of the frontline workers. Dedication can be seen in the conduct of the frontline workers into the times of pandemic. So many long hours they had worked without complaining. Why? Because of dedication. And such a dedication in the civil servants is very much needed. In public servant, it is very much needed if they needed to be effective. Now, such kind of an example of dedication, I say you that please be updated. In newspapers, there was one example of a postman from Nilgiris. One story of a postman who got recently retired. It went viral. Many of the IS officers, they shared it onto the Twitter. What was that particular story? For more than 30 years, the postman D. Shivan, he was delivering the letters into the Nilgiris. There was no road, there was no proper ways. He delivered the letters to the tribal hamlets for 30 years without seeking a leave, without complaining ever. In that He many a times, because of the forest, he many a times came across with many of the wild animals also. Many a times his life was into the danger because of such dangerous terrain that was there, but he did his duty without taking any leave, without giving any excuse. What it shows? It shows the dedication. Is it clear? You can give the examples of, you can give examples, such many such examples are there where the dedication has been shown. Fine. After that, okay. After that, further moving on, the third value that is there, we can call it the value of anonymity. Value of anonymity. So what is the value of anonymity? Value of anonymity as specifically emphasized by the Prime Minister onto the Civil Services Day. Anonymity means that the civil servants, they should not work to come into it for coming in the limelight. They should not work so that they will be given some credit. They will be appreciated. Anonymity means that they need to be hidden from the public glare and they have to consistently do their work. And see, a very good example, the value of anonymity, we can learn from the line capital. From the line capital of India. Fine, the Ashok emblem. If you see the line capital, the Ashok emblem, you will always be find that there are the three lines that are visible. One is on right, one is on left, and one is on the front. The three lines are visible. The one line is never visible into the line capital. But is it? But that third, the fourth line, he not there. It is there, but it is never visible. It is just making feel the. It is just making its presence felt, but never coming into the limelight. Now, who these three lines are? One could be the judiciary, one could be the executive, one could be the legislature, and the fourth line, who's never visible, they are the bureaucrats. Never they will come into the limelight, never they will be coming into the public glaze, but they are the ones who are making the policy, they are the one who are bringing the change, they are the one who are delivering the social justice. So into this particular capacity, the value of anonymity into the civil servants needed to be there, because if they will come to the public glare, they will not be able to take the decisions with courage. Then there will be certain vested interest that will come. Then there will be the notion of appeasing the people. Then the notion of populism will come. So the anonymity needs to be there. Then the fourthly, the value that is needed. Okay. Fourthly, the value that is needed. Okay. Here comes the value of accountability. Value of accountability. Okay. देखो, accountability means the answerability with respect to your actions. The answerability with respect to your actions. Now the accountability needs to be there into the civil servants so that the public faith is restored. Fine. Now the example of accountability can be taken from the example of U. Sagayam. U. Sagayam, fine, the IS officer. He was the one. He was the first IS officer who put the details of his public or the details of his personal assets into the public domain. Is it clear? Fine. Many such kind of officers have been there who had presented their accountability. So the answerability with respect to your conduct needs to be there to bring the public faith in system. Then the fifth value that is there, it is the value of selflessness. Value of selflessness. Now the selflessness has been explained into the Bhagavad Gita. The selflessness has been explained into the Bhagavad Gita. What Bhagavad Gita says? Bhagavad Gita says this particular thing that the actor needs to be detached from the action. The actor needs to be detached from the action. I am an actor. I am doing one particular act. I am doing one particular behavior. I need to be detached from that particular action. Neither in my mind there need to be rag, dvesh, moh. Rag, dvesh, moh. Fine. Rag means the attachment. Dvesh means the hatredness. Moh means a delusion. Fine. So rag, dvesh, moh need not to be there in your action. Your actions need to be completely selfless. There is a notion of nishkam karma that has been mentioned into the Indian philosophies. So nishkamta, selflessness needs to be there into the conduct. Why? Because only if the selflessness is there, the civil servants can serve the people. If the self is involved, देखो जहां पे selfish, जहां पे self आ जाएगा, wherever the self will come, the selfishness will come. Where the selfishness will come, the greed will come. And where the greed will come, the service will go away. Is it clear? So by this particular logic, you need to maintain a selflessness. Right? That is the thing. Then further moving on. There are some other values also that we'll be talking. Okay, the sixth value. The sixth value that is important, okay, it is the conviction to duty. Conviction to duty. Conviction to duty. Duty for the sake of duty. Duty for the sake of duty. Treating your duty as a dharma. Treating your duty as a dharma. Fine, needs to be there. You need to be you need to have unshakable conviction towards your duty. Is it clear or not? Fine. So the duty for the sake of duty. Fine. Then the next value that is there, you need to maintain the leadership. You need to maintain the leadership. Fine, see this particular thing. Basically, if we see today into the bureaucracy, there is one particular problem into the bureaucracy, that there is a kind of a lot of mediocrity that has come into the bureaucracy. Finest of the finest minds, they are joining the bureaucracy, but a kind of a mediocrity is there. Now, into this particular capacity, what is needed? We need to have the able leaders into the bureaucracy who can keep the morale high, who can make the realization of the social justice principle into the young aspirant into the young civil servants who are joining. So the leadership needs to be there. Leader is one who can show the way. Is that clear? So good leadership is also needed to bring the structural reform, right? Then the next value that is there, it will be the openness and transparency. Openness and transparency. Why the openness and transparency is needed? The second ARC has provided this particular thing. Wherever the opaqueness and discretion will be there, the corruption will automatically will come. Opaqueness and discretions are the most congenial circumstances for the corruption. And what is the cure of such thing? Transparency and openness. What is the cure? Transparency and openness. So the transparency and openness is an essential treatment of treating a corruption. Therefore, the openness and transparency needs to be, right? Then the next value that is there, we can talk about the value of compassion. The value of compassion we can talk about. What do we mean by compassion? Compassion means when you see a person into the pain, into the suffering, you will take an action. You will take some. You will do something to reduce the suffering of that particular person. So the compassion is needed. Now, why the compassion is needed? Why the compassion is needed? It is very much needed because, again, the reason comes, number one, the COVID-19 pandemic, large number of people are suffering. Secondly, when you need to remove the poverty, when you need to remove the hunger, when you need to remove the malnourishment, if compassion is not there in your heart, you will never be able to go out of the mile. So fine, you will never be able to go out of your way. So therefore, the compassion is very much. So therefore, all these particular things we can see. Okay. The example of compassion could be seen from the IAS officer. It can be seen from the IAS officer Shashanka Ala. Now the Shashanka Ala, what she did in her constituency. Fine, she had developed the Nutri Gardens, okay, in order to reduce the malnourishment of the students. Is it clear? And by that particular thing, by 50 percentage points, she had reduced the malnourishment. Is it clear? Compassion we can learn from the Operation Suleimani, which is being driven by the IAS officer Prashant Nair, where he had built a system where the people can avail the food coupons from many of the distribution centers are there, and by availing these food coupons, they can eat the food. They don't need to pay for that. So the poor people can afford the food by these food coupons. So this is the example of passion that is there. Fine. Then the openness and the transparency. Is it clear? Fine. Then these are there. Okay. One more value we need to describe, the 10th. Fine. That is the value of responsibility. The value of responsibility. Is it clear? So these are the important values. Fine. Now, the second part of the question is that describe the ways. Describe the ways and means to prevent non-ethical behavior in public servants. Now, the ways to prevent the non-ethical behavior in public servants. See, there are the three ways to prevent the non-ethical behavior in public servants. One is the descriptive way, other is the normative way, and third is the procedural way. Descriptive way, normative way, and the procedural way. Now, what do we mean by descriptive way? It simply means that you just give the civil servants a descriptive list of do's and don'ts, and just by following that descriptive list of do's and don'ts, they will understand that what is to be done, what is not to be done. Is it clear? And the things which are not to be done, okay, and the things which are to be done, by that they can indirectly learn the ethics. So here we have the code of conduct. So here we have the code of conduct. By establishing by establishing a code of conduct which infuses the desirable conduct into the civil servants, which infuses the just conduct into the civil servants, the rule based conduct into the civil servants, the unethical behavior can be avoided. Clear? So in a descriptive way you can give them an updated code of conduct which can teach them the rule of law, which can teach them the justice. Then in the normative way, what is this normative way? Normative way pertains, let's see, one is giving you a descriptive list of do's and don'ts. Do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this. This is descriptive list is there. But sometimes teaching them certain norms also becomes important. Teaching them certain norms also becomes important. Okay, I can give you one example here. Suppose you came to prepare for the UPSC exam. You come to me and ask me that, sir, please tell me how to prepare. One is descriptive way of guiding you. I will give you that, okay, follow these 10 books, go to these 2 coachings and do this thing. This is going to be a descriptive way. Fine. Second is the normative way. You come to me. I will not give you any source. I will not give you any kind of a simple code of conduct, do's and don'ts. I will just be asking you to be a dedicated civil servant. I will just be asking that, okay, be more dedicated, be more disciplined, be more hardworking, be more diligent. Right? So certain norms I'm imbibing in you. Clear? If you become diligent, if you become disciplined, if you become hardworking, then this particular thing will be helping you in a different way to crack this particular examination. Just giving you a book list will not be helping. You need to follow that books also. Na? So for that, teaching you particular norms also becomes important. And for teaching the norms to the civil servants, what happened? The code of ethics come here. The code of ethics comes here. So by preparing a code of ethics which encompasses all the values, which encompasses all the norms, we can prevent the non-ethical behavior. Not you need to just prepare the code of ethics, you need not to just prepare the code of conduct, you need to make sure that both of these code of conduct and code of ethics are being internalized into them, and if both of them are internalized by them, they will avoid the non-ethical behavior. And by that, for that particular matter, code of conduct, we are having Civil Services Conduct Rules 1964 and All India Service Conduct Rule 1968. They are already into the place. With respect to the code of ethics in India, a separate code of ethics is not there. It has been suggested since 1997 that a code of ethics should be there, okay, but up till now a specific code of ethics has not come. Okay, then the procedural. In the procedural way, fine, we need to establish such kind of procedures where the accountability through institutional means can be checked from time to time. We need to institute such kind of procedures where the transparency into the system can be brought. For example, bringing the e-governance, bringing the good governance, such kind of procedures, if we fit into the system, what will happen? The avenues of involving in corruption will go down. The avenues of involving into the self-gratification, it will go down, and by that particular thing, the non-ethical behavior will be avoided. Is it clear? So basically, when we talk about the ways and means to prevent the non-ethical behavior, just don't give another 5 more values. Talk on to the broad themes. Talk on to the broad themes that are there. Fine. So descriptively, give them code of conduct. Already we have. Reform it. Normative, give them code of ethics. We don't have it. Fine. And procedural, bring more and more avenues of transparency. Bring more and more avenues of checking their accountability, and all these things work upon. Okay. One more thing is there. The second ARC had also suggested the comprehensive civil service code. Fine, it was suggested. That has also not come. So that can also help. Okay. So this is about it. Okay. And is everything clear now? Is everything clear now into this particular question? Okay. So as I can see here on the screen, okay, if there is any doubt, I'm just checking. Okay. As of now, there is no doubt, I think. Okay. Fine. Okay, so I guess the things are clear. Fine. Okay. Yes, please tell me. Can we proceed? Fine. Now, moving to the next question. Moving to the next question, that is the question number 2A. Fine. Now, the question number 2A, what the question reads? Question says, impact of digital technology, impact of digital technology as a reliable source of input for rational decision making is a debatable issue. Critically evaluate with a suitable impact of digital technology as a reliable source of input for rational decision making is a debatable issue. Fine. Now, what is the keyword here? Critically evaluate. Now, first of all, when we'll be talking on to this particular question, critical evaluation being the keyword here, you need to give the arguments of both the sides. You need to give the argument that why the digital technology is providing the reliable source of input and how the digital technology is not providing a reliable source for the rational decision making. So how they have helped and how they have not helped. Both of the things we will say here. Yeah, keyword here. It is a debatable issue. Whether they are good, whether they are bad, it is a debatable issue. Critically evaluate. You come out with your own set of arguments. Is that clear or not? So this is the way, this is first of all, the question that is there. Fine. Now, number one thing, in your introduction, what you can, in your introduction, first of all, you can define what do we mean by the rational decision. What do we mean by the rational decision? So when we talk about the rational decision can be described as a decision which have certain core characteristics. Number one, a rational decision need to have an element of objectivity. Second, it needs to have an element of inclusivity. A rational decision is one which will be reason based. So these are certain of the core characteristics of a rational decision. A rational decision will be objective. It will be inclusive. It will be reason based. It will be logic based. Is it clear? All these are the features of a rational decision. Now the rational decision will ensure that the maximum welfare of the maximum people can happen. Today we talk about the notion of Bahujan Sukhai, Bahujan Hitai. Is it clear? But how such kind of things can happen? Only when the rational decisions which are devoid of stereotypes when the decisions devoid of prejudices can be made. Only then the long lasting impact will come. Right? Now, let's jumping directly onto the demand of the question. First, we'll discuss that why the digital technology is not a reliable source of input. Why digital technology is not a reliable source of input for the rational decision making. Right? Why they are not? Now, into this particular thing, certain arguments will give here. Now, the first here which we can talk, first one. Okay, I'll explain you one particular concept. If you're following the newspaper, you might have seen this particular editorial, you might have come across. What has happened few months back, in fact, there was one Google's report that was published. And this particular report was talking about the algorithmic social biases. Right? Algorithmic social biases. Now, what is this notion of algorithmic social biases? I will explain this particular concept in just 1 or 2 minutes. See this particular. In itself, the concept is very important. See this thing. It has been provided that, let's say, through artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is a digital technology. Now, let's say we are using the artificial intelligence into the decision making. Now, this artificial intelligence will be based on some algorithm. This artificial intelligence will be based on certain algorithm. Now, this particular algorithm in the backend will be based on certain data. There will be certain data. So first of all, there is a data. On the basis of data, you design an algorithm, and that particular algorithm will be onto that algorithm, one artificial intelligence program will be there, which will help you in making the decisions. Now, the problem often there is that these data sets which are there, they are not representative data sets. Particularly in India, when we talk about these data sets are not representatives because the data is being generated by only the people who are having the internet. And if we see the penetration of internet in India is such that in comparison to the women, more and more number of male are having the mobile phones. In comparison of the Dalits and tribal people, upper caste people are having mobile phones in large numbers. Thirdly, it has been provided that the religious disparity is also there. There is one particular religion which have so many of the members. Now, how this particular thing is reflected into a kind of a bias. So, according to a Google report, it was provided this particular thing that what happened, there were certain kind of applications that were designed, and these applications have to mark a area as a safe or unsafe. What happened, a trend was noted that the areas which have more number of Muslim people, those areas were marked as unsafe areas. The neighborhoods where Dalit people are more, those neighborhoods were referred as unsafe areas. What has happened here? Basically, the people's biases, they are reflected in the data which is being generated by them, and that particular data is used in making the algorithms, and onto those algorithms, when artificial intelligence is based, obviously the decision making that will be coming, the decision which will be coming, it will be having certain biases. So you don't need to explain this entire thing, you don't need to explain this entire thing, fine, just you can write it in 2 lines that what happens often the digital technologies which are considering the artificial intelligence. Now the artificial intelligence which is based onto the data sets, they are plagued with the social biases, and by that social biases often the decisions which are being made even by the help of the artificial intelligence into the social matters, into the social realms, they are not completely objective. और अब मैं आपको, अगर आपको ये वाली बात नहीं पता, if you don't know this particular thing, then actually it is not something which is a very kind of ये ऐसा नहीं है कि जो अभी आया है. From so many of the years, this particular thing is being debated. In America, this has been a very big problem into the artificial intelligence. In India, it is a very big problem. So you should have known this particular thing if you have been very regular with the current affairs. So the digital technologies, the artificial intelligence is plagued with the social algorithmic biases, and by that particular thing, rational decision will not be there. Now, let's consider what were the properties of a rational decision. A rational decision need to be objective, it needs to be inclusive, it needs to be reason based, it needs to be logic based. Now, such biases will not be helping in making a rational decision. So, therefore, the digital technologies are not helping in the rational decision making process. Clear? This is the thing. Now, let's take another, that why digital technologies. Another reason number 2, that why digital technologies are not helping in making the rational decision. See, what happens? The next reason is this. Today, we are living in the age of infodemic. We are living in the age of infodemic. Now, what is this infodemic? Infodemic pertains to the times when there is so much of information, so much excessive information is there. And because so much of information is there, what will happen? Even now, infodemic is characterized that there will be the fake information, there will be the true information. And when so much of information is there, we are not able to identify the fake information from the true information. And many times, even the fake information is believed to be as a true information, and the decisions are taken on such fake information. So what had happened with the coming of digital technologies, with the coming of the social media, now we are living into the age of infodemic, in which the fake and the true information, many times they cannot be distinguished, and therefore many times due to the fake decision, fake information, the decisions are taken, and such decisions are not rational decisions. Is it clear? There is one particular word that is also there, that is the infoclips. Infoclips. Today, because of the fake information, there are many other big crises that are coming. So because of the infodemic, the fake information effect, many times the rational decisions cannot be taken. Third, when we talk about the digital technologies, see, there is one very big problem of digital technologies which will be there. Digital technologies cannot account for the human emotions. Digital technologies can never account for the human sentiments. Now, when we talk about the state that we want to make, what type of state we want to make? We want to make a welfare state. We want to make a state where Antyodaya needs to be there, Sarvodaya needs to be there. Find the state where everybody's sabka saath sabka vikas can be there. Now sabka saath sabka vikas, fine, antyodaya sarvodaya, into all these particular things, human emotions are to be always accommodated. Sometimes the decisions might not be most cost effective. Sometimes the decisions might not be onto the basis of, if you gauge onto them on the basis of a balance sheet, they might not be the most profitable, but still some steps have to be taken. And the digital technologies cannot partake the emotions, human emotions. Fine. What is just, what is fair, what is just, what is fair, such kind of things cannot be taken in account by the digital technologies. So this is one of a problem that comes here. Is it clear or not? Okay. So therefore, we can say this particular thing, that the digital technologies sometimes might not be a reliable source for input for the decision making. Now, on to the another hand, now we will give the justification that sometimes the digital technology can help in making the rational decision. Sometimes digital technology can help in making the rational decisions. Now, here justifications can be given. Number one justification. See, today if we talk about the rational decision making, the digital technologies can help in a particular way. What has happened? Evidence-based decision making can be taken. Evidence-based decision making can be taken by the help of the digital technologies. Earlier, the schemes were, let's say, they were going here 20-25 years a scheme is going on. We are not able to ascertain that, okay, what is the benefit of that particular scheme in absolute numbers. Is it clear? We are not able to judge whether the scheme is successful or not, but still the scheme is being operated. Clear? Today with the digital technologies, real-time monitoring of the schemes can be done. And by this real-time monitoring of the schemes, you can see which schemes are making the impact and which schemes are not making an impact. The schemes which are making an impact, we can augment them, and the schemes are not making an impact, we can discontinue. So therefore, the evidence-based decision making can be done through the digital technologies. You can real-time monitor, fine, the schemes. So therefore, it can help in making the rational decisions, what to carry, what not to carry. Secondly, digital technologies can augment the capacity of a state. It can further augment it. Now, into this particular capacity, I just wanted to give you a recent newspaper article that was there. It came before the exam. What happened? The Ministry of Civil Aviation, for example, Ministry of Civil Aviation had directed many of the ministries that they can use the drone technologies to further make rational decisions. Now, I will give you certain of the examples. If you want, you can note it down into your notebooks. For example, it has been asked that into the agriculture, for the crop and soil health monitoring, the drones can be used. For the anti-locust work, the drones can be used. For the insurance settlement into the case of a natural calamity, into the case of any kind of a disaster, the drones technology can be used. It has been provided that for the settlement of the land records, fine, for the land mapping, the drones can be used. Or it has been provided that that into the power sector, for the monitoring of the assets, monitoring of the transmission lines, the drone technologies can be used. Fine. Ministry of Home Affairs, clear, can use the drone technology for the VVIP security. Recently, the Prime Minister's security was breached. So for the VVIP security, the drone technologies can be used. Now, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has been given a very excellent suggestion that they can use the drone technologies for the medicine delivery. They can use the drone technologies for the sample collection from the tribal hamlets. Find for life-saving drugs can be delivered to the rural areas. Clear? So this is the way in which the drone technologies can be used. The Ministry of Defense can use the drone technologies for the enhanced surveillance. The Ministry of Road Transport can use the drone technologies for the project monitoring, highway monitoring. Clear? So into these particular ways, the drone technologies can be used. It is a emerging technology which can augment the capacity of a state. Then thirdly, we can see this particular thing, that the drone technologies, how they can help. The drone technologies can also help into this particular way. Sorry, not drone technology, the digital technologies. How the digital technologies can help? The digital technologies can also help in tagging a better account, tagging better accountability. So into all these particular manners, they can help it. Right? So we have given the examples, and we have provided on both the viewpoint sides that how they are making a difference. So that is all about this particular question. And now moving to the next question. Okay, the question number 2B. Till this point, is everything clear? Okay, till this point, is everything clear? Yes, guys, please tell me, is it clear to everyone? Okay, in meanwhile, in between, there are certain doubts. Sir, can we use it, Tesla company as an example? Okay, Tesla. Okay, in what regard do you want to use it? Fine. You can use it. There is not at all a problem. You can use any examples provided that you are able to link it directly with your question. If you can do that particular thing, yes, you can use the examples. There is no bar that, okay, this example cannot be used. You can use them. Now, question 2B. What it says? It says, besides the domain knowledge, a public official needs innovativeness and creativity of a high order as well while resolving the ethical dilemma. Discuss with a suitable example. Now, while resolving an ethical dilemma, you need to have a creativity. Is that clear? Now, first of all, what do we mean by an ethical dilemma? Ethical dilemma क्या होता है? Ethical dilemma, it is a state of moral discomfort. It is a state of moral discomfort, or it can simply be explained as a state of moral dissonance. Fine? When you have multiple choices, and each of choice is morally equally significant. Okay? So this is a kind of an ethical dilemma. Ethical dilemma will lead to a moral discomfort. It will lead to a moral dissonance. Fine. When you face an ethical dilemma, when there are the different choices that are there, and every choice will involve certain values. Clear? Now देखो क्या होगा? Different choices are there. In all the choices, there are certain values which are there. If you go for this particular choice, these two choices will be compromised. If you go for this choice and this choice will be compromised. In all of the choice, there are certain values that are involved, and all the values are important for you. Clear? If you take this choice, certain values will be taken, but certain other values will be compromised. It is ethical dilemma. Now, every day, the civil servants will face the different kind of dilemma. Into these kind of situations of ethical dilemma, not only the domain knowledge will be helping. You are an engineer, it will not just help. You are a doctor, it will not just help. You need to be creative. You need to have certain out of the box ideas, and then only you can resolve these ethical dilemmas. This is the demand of the question. Right? Discuss with suitable examples. Now, if you see in every question, they are giving one particular keyword, discuss with a suitable example. Now, from where these suitable examples will be coming? If you are observant on the issues, contemporary issues that are there, you will be able to come out with such kind of idea, such kind of contemporary examples, some illustration. Now, we discussed that what do we mean by the ethical dilemma. Now, after discussing the ethical dilemma, now let's see different ethical dilemmas that the civil servants or the public officials face, and for resolving them, how a creativity is needed. Certain common ethical dilemmas that are faced. There is an ethical dilemma that is very much in many times it is observed. Fine. For example, duty versus empathy. Duty versus empathy. Now, how it is a dilemma? See, upholding the duty is very much important. Duty has been equated with a dharma. Upholding the duty is very important. But at the same time, empathy is also much important. What is empathy? Empathy is to feel another person's pain, is to feel another person's suffering, misery. Empathy is also very important. Now, this dilemma of duty and empathy was felt into the times of COVID-19. देखो example देना बहुत जरूरी है. In itself, this duty and empathy versus empathy is a moral dilemma. It is an example. But one more example we can give within it, that how this duty versus empathy dilemma was faced. In the times of COVID-19, what happened? the times of COVID-19, particularly the second wave of COVID-19 that came into the month of April and May, large number of children, they lost their parents. What people did, people posted the pictures of such children onto the social media and asked the people that they should come forward and they should adopt these children. Now, as per the guidelines given by the Child Adoption Resource Authority CARA, as well as per the National Commission for the Protection of the Child Rights, this is not the right way to adopt a child and it is a offense. People did not knew it. They were posting the pictures of such childs who got orphaned and they were asking that if somebody can adopt it. This particular thing was going on. Supreme Court asked the police. Supreme Court asked the police as well as enforcement agencies that you need to check it out. Now, what will be the dilemma of a public official? What will be the dilemma of a public official? Now, the public official, he has to do his duty. What is the duty? That he need to check that no such kind of illegal adoption is going on and any person doing it, he need to be punished. But at the same time, the empathy also comes. Empathy for the person even who had posted it, it comes because he had not done it in a bad faith. Empathy for the children who got orphaned, for him also the empathy will come, because let's say if he was settled, he was adopted by a good family, he can get a good future. Okay, otherwise he will go destitute, otherwise he will be just be going into the child labor. So the empathy for such children is there in your mind that okay, इनको कुछ घर मिल जाएगा तो अच्छा होगा, if they will get a good family अच्छा होगा, but at the same time you have to stop it also that no such kind of thing should happen. So on one hand duty is there, on one hand empathy is there. How you will balance it? Clear? It is a dilemma. Now this particular dilemma was resolved by creating. Now what happened? The Bal Swaraj portal was established. Bal Swaraj portal was established. Now on this Bal Swaraj portal, what happened? The details of such children who got orphaned, they were listed there so that institutional care could be given to them. So that institutional care could be given to them. One thing, this Bal Swaraj portal came. So that institutional care. अब आप यहाँ पे क्या कर सकते हो? Rather than posting the picture onto the social media, you can post such kind of detail onto this Bal Swaraj portal. Excuse me. Secondly, so you can upload the pictures and the details onto this Bal Swaraj portal. Secondly, district child protection units. District child protection units were also given a specific task that they should identify these kind of children and should offer these children in a legitimate way of adoption. So adopt करवाएंगे, but in a legitimate way. District child protection units were given a specific task here. So what it is? It is creativity. Fine. Why? Because ethical dilemma is there. So giving suitable example. Fine. You need to give the example of dilemma. We have given the example of dilemma. But how this dilemma got solved through the creativity, this is also that you can provide here. Now, this is not something new. It was there into the newspapers. Clear? So, therefore, keeping an eye onto the current affairs also becomes very much important. Clear? That is one thing. Then, some other ethical dilemmas, kuch aur ethical dilemmas, let's see them also. Then, the ethical dilemma number 2. Ethical dilemma number 2. Now, there could be the dilemma of deciding between the public life, duties versus private life duties. Public life duties, private life duties. Now, this ethical dilemma was faced by our frontline workers. Our frontline workers, they face this particular dilemma. How? देखो dilemma क्या है? We are living into the time of pandemic, and into this time of pandemic, the people are to be supported, they are to be helped, responses to be given to them. For that particular thing, doctors, they had to work for so many hours with the infected people. The police, they have to work 24 hours. Is it clear? Now, public life ethics calls them that they need to devote themselves. But into the private life, their private life duty calls that they need to be responsible for their family also. What if in their public life they got infected and they in turn infect their family members also, who actually were staying indoors, who were actually taking the precautions, but now they got infected because of your public life duty that you were following. So the dilemma comes that whether your public life duties are more important and you should devotedly do work, or whether your private life duties are also important, because at the same time when you are a police officer, you are also a father. At the same time, you are also a husband, you are also a son. Right? So that particular part also is very much important. Clear? So how to balance the public life duties and private life duties into the time of pandemic? What is to be given more importance? It was a dilemma. And now we have seen, fine, that we have seen the example of one of a doctor into the Bhopal, that is Dr. Sachin Nayak. Dr. Sachin Nayak. What he did while doing his duty, he got infected with the, he got exposed. He got exposed with the COVID-19. But he stayed in his car. He stayed in his car for so many days, so that neither he infect his family members and at the same time his public duty also he can perform. So he stayed in a car. What is this? This is a way of balancing it out. अब यहाँ पे देखो उन्होंने कोई अपना medical knowledge नहीं use किया. This is a way of such innovative way that he found that how he can do both the things simultaneously. Then there are other examples also. For examples guys, देखो एक बहुत interesting ethical dilemma I'm going to tell. ठीक है? See, please be very careful. Liberalism versus paternalism. Libertarianism versus paternalism. Libertarianism versus paternalism. Now, what does the libertarianism calls for? Libertarianism, it calls for that maximum liberty should be, the people should be given the avenues to make the choice. Their freedom should be upheld. Liberties should be given, their choices should be upheld, and they should be given freedom. This is the libertarian. Now comes the paternalism. Paternalism calls that sometimes for the people's own welfare, sometimes for the people's own benefit, onto them you can command them. Sometimes you can take away their liberties, sometimes you can take away their freedom for people's own welfare. Now understand this libertarianism and paternalism debate. This debate becomes important in the backdrop of vaccine administration. Within this vaccine administration comes the vaccine hesitancy. Now there are so many of the people who are not coming and taking the vaccines. Clear? Now if you give importance to libertarianism, they should be given a liberty. They should be given a freedom of choice. They should be given a freedom that if they want to take, they should. If they don't want to take, you should not pressurize them. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court has also provided that the vaccines are basically you have the you can decide if you want to take it or not. They are not a compulsory. Up till now, the vaccines are not compulsory. So libertarianism means that okay, if they don't want to take it, give them no choice. Second comes the paternalism. Paternalism says that okay, if they'll not take the vaccine, they will infect other people. By force, give them the vaccine. Now here what is happening? The state government, they are saying that okay, if you want to go to the public place, you need to show the vaccine certificates. If you need to come into office, you need to show public vaccine certificates. Such kind of thing is coming. So respecting their choice or not respecting their choice, but ensuring the public good. What is more important? It is a situation of dilemma. Now, what is a creative way that has been identified here? We have the case study of Jhabua. In the Jhabua, there are the Khatla Baithaks which are being organized. Khatla Baithak that are being organized. Now, what is these Khatla Baithaks? In the Jhabua, the district administration, the public officials, they are going to the people and they are basically educating the people with respect to the importance of vaccine, and without forcing them they are being persuaded so that they themselves take the vaccine. It is a fine balance. You are neither pressurizing them nor you are just leaving them. You need to have a dialogue with them, such as the Khatla Baithaks organized into the Jhabua, where the public officials they reached to the people and sensitized them in such a way that immediately the vaccine adoption into the Jhabua it increased. Vaccine adoption into the Jhabua it got increased. Is it clear? So in this way, this ethical dilemma has been balanced. Fine. Then one more type of ethical dilemma that is often faced, it is integrity versus obedience. Integrity versus obedience. See, integrity versus obedience, it is actually a very big problem. Integrity wants to uphold your moral principles, but at the same time, your seniors, your political bosses, they want you to do something which you feel is not right, which you feel is not dutiful, or which you feel is not rule bound. ठीक है, तो बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि दैट द पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर इज बीइंग इम्पोज्ड दैट यू इन्वॉल्व इन सम एक्ट ऑफ करप्शन और यू involve in some act of nepotism, favoritism, but you feel that it is not a good thing. So on one hand integrity is there, on one hand the obedience is there. You have to respect the chain of command, you have to respect the authority. Clear? Now such integrity and obedience, such kind of challenge often comes. Fine, for example, we find that IAS officer Renu Raj, IAS officer Renu Raj, while she was investigating a query scam, while she was investigating a query, a scam with respect to the mining, she was pressurized a lot that she should drop this particular investigation. But she balanced this particular thing in such a way that she carried her duty, her integrity also, but at the same time, she did not she did not rubbed up in the bosses. You Sagayam, while he was investigating the multi-crore rupees granite scam into the Tamil Nadu, a lot of political pressure, a lot of pressures from the senior was there. But he managed this particular situation with such a creativity that he concluded that investigation also, but at the same time, he respected the obedience. So, right? So into this particular manner, the integrity and obedience, Renu Raj's example, U Sagayam's example, Ashok Khemka's example. Ashok Khemka's example. Is it clear or not? Fine. So this is the way in which the integrity versus obedience could be a dilemma. And then one last I want to give you here is rules versus tradition. Rules versus tradition. Rules versus tradition, or modernity versus tradition. Modernity versus tradition. Now, into this particular direction, you can see that child marriages are there. Now, when the child marriages are going on, certain communities says that this is our tradition. Clear? But what is a rule? Child marriage cannot be taken. What is the modernity? Child marriage cannot be taken. So many times when the social change is there, if you go in bringing the social change, many times the people will get irritated. They say that you are breaking their tradition, and by that particular thing, people will not be giving the allegiance to the state. Dekho, suppose I am a let's say I'm an IAS officer, and in let's say I am posted into the Rajasthan, and in one of the area district where I am posted, a lot of child marriages they happen there. If I go and I say that okay, आपको child marriage नहीं करने देंगे, ठीक है, I can enforce that particular thing. But if in future I need to get the allegiance, they will never be congenial to me. To me means clear. So therefore, how to what is important? Keeping them following their rules and their keeping them following their traditions is more important, or disturbing these traditions and enforcing the rule is more important. Okay. Now this is a kind of an ethical dilemma that is there. Now that is such kind of ethical dilemma, we can see that an IAS officer Rima Rajeshwari, what she had done, Rima Rajeshwari, what she had done, she had breaked down onto the child marriages by breaking the false consciousness of the people. By breaking the false consciousness of the people. So this idea of false consciousness is a very powerful idea. What is this idea of false consciousness? I'll tell you. देखो, कई बार क्या होता है? Many times you don't think that whatever you are doing is wrong. I am discriminating. I don't think that it is wrong. I think that okay, this is the way. in which everything happens. Your consciousness is false. Fine, I discriminate between the boys and the girls. Okay, I think that the boys are more superior, but I don't find that there is any problem. So breaking my false consciousness is very much important. So what Rima Rajeshwari had done, she had broken down the false consciousness of the people, and by that she had brought a change and had cracked down onto the child marriages. Clear? So the traditions, they themselves got changed and the rules got followed. Yeah, the traditions got changed and the rules got followed. So these are all the different kind of dilemmas. These are the different kind of dilemmas that are being faced. That is about it. So all the, see, I think 4 5 names of the civil servants we have used here. Clear? So these names you can use and you can provide in your answers. Is it clear? These examples. Fine. And one more thing. There is no one book which is there. जहाँ से भी आपको सारे के सारे examples you will be getting. No one book or no one text is there. Fine. You need to be meticulous in arranging such kind of things. ठीक है, और ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that once a question has come, okay, and now we are arranged all this particular thing. This fodder needs to be already there in your notes. Now moving to the next question. That is the question number 3A. Now this is a quote-based question. And every year the quote-based questions they are coming. This year also 30 marks worth of quote-based questions have come. Now here, what I will be talking now, देखो अब हर quote का, every quote's interpretation will be different. Every quote you can answer into the different manner. Okay, this is the beauty of a quote, that one quote will never be having one answer. In different ways it could be interpreted. I just want to give you here the approach compass. I want to give you here the approach compass as how you can address the quote-based questions. So, how to address the quote-based questions? There are certain steps that you can follow. By the way, I'm not saying this particular thing that okay, only these steps are the best or only these steps can be followed. There could be another approach also, but this is one approach that had worked wonders for the aspirants. Step number 1. Whenever a quote is there, into the first 2 to 3 lines, immediately simplify that particular quote. Is it clear? What is the message that is being given by that particular quote? Now, if we read the quote, question number 3A that has been given here, this is a quote by the Swami Vivekananda. Now it says, every work has got to pass through hundreds of difficulties before succeeding. Every work has got to pass through hundreds of difficulties before succeeding. Those that persevere will see the light sooner or later. According to them, every process has to go with a lot of difficulties, and the people who will be persistent, who will be steadbound, they will see the light at the end of the day. Now, what you can do? You can just into the start first 2-3 lines can simplify the quote that has been given. Now, see this particular thing. The quotes mainly are of two types. The quotes are value based, where they are talking about one or two values. Sometimes the quotes are message based. For example, Gandhiji's quote that the world has enough for everybody's need but for not everybody's greed. It is giving you a message of environmental conservation. Now, this particular quote, if we see, it is a value based quote. Here they are just talking about the value of the perseverance. Is it clear? So these two quotes could be there. So what you can do in first 2-3 lines, you can simplify that particular quote. If it is giving a message, you can just in very simple words decode the message that is being given without beating around the bush. There is a one reason that why you should do this thing. Because you need to show the examiner immediately that you have understood what is being provided here. Many a times examiner is not able to gauge that आपको समझ भी आया या नहीं समझ में आया. And many times the aspirants are also not able to understand the code. Just for filling a page, they are writing 150 page words. So in order to show the organization of your content, just in first 2-3 lines, give the simplified what you understood by this particular quote. No philosophical meaning, simplify provided. Right? Number 1 thing. I told you that sometimes the quote will be the value-centric quotes. Now, this particular quote is a value-centric quote where it is talking about the value of perseverance. आपको लगे रहना है. अगर आप लगे रहोगे, if you are consistently with an unflinching attitude, if without an unflinching attitude, you are doing a certain particular thing, if you have a relentless pursuit, at the end of the day, you will get successful. So it is talking about the value of relentless pursuit. This quote is talking about the value of relentless pursuit. This quote is talking about the unflinching conviction. This particular quote, it is talking about the perseverance, optimism that you have to maintain. 100 of difficulties will come, but you have to maintain the optimism. And if that optimism will be there, sooner or later, you will see the light. Is it clear? So certain values are being talked about. आप उन values को यहाँ पे बता सकते हो. Again, I'll repeat. It is talking about the value of perseverance. It is talking about the value of unflinching conviction. It is talking about a value of optimism that needs to be maintained, and it talks about a relentless pursuit. Relentless pursuit. This is one thing that you can do. Now here, when we talk about the most important value that is being talked here, it is the value of perseverance. It is the value of perseverance. So अब आप क्या कर सकते हो? On to the value of perseverance. Once you had explained the central message, then you can describe that particular value. If it is a value-centric quote, you can refine onto the message if it is a message-centric quote. So it is a value-centric quote. We can talk little bit onto the value of perseverance. Right? We can simply provide that the perseverance is act of working towards a goal despite of difficulties, despite of setbacks. Fine, despite of difficulties, despite of setback, working towards a goal. Fine, it is what is provided by the perseverance. Now, if perseverance will be there, sooner or later you will see the light. If perseverance is there, sooner or later you will see the light. Why? Why? Sooner or later you will see the light. Because if perseverance is there, if perseverance is there, number one, you can maintain a perpetual motion. देखो, there are two things. One, you are continuously walking. Sometimes you run, sometimes you walk slowly, sometimes you stroll, but you are maintaining a motion. Situation number two, you stopped walking. Now in situation number one, though you might reach after a time, but you will reach, that is for sure. But in second, you will never be reaching, that is also for sure. So what happens if the perseverance is there? If perseverance is there, a person can maintain the perpetual motion. And this perpetual motion at the end of the day will make you reach towards your goal. Second, if perseverance is there, what can happen? If perseverance is there, you will be resilient. You will be resilient. Problems will come, but you will again come back. Problems will come, they will knock you down, but you will show such kind of a resilience. So the resilience will be there. Thirdly, if the perseverance will be there, sooner or later you will gain a mastery as how the things should be done. When the Edison got failed hundreds of times, when he was not able to make a bulb, what he said? He said that I had not failed 1,000 times, but I had learned 1,000 ways in which it cannot be done. What he said, I had not failed 1,000 times, but I had learned 1,000 ways in which it cannot be done. What he learned so this perseverance helps you in earning such mastery, and by that mastery, any goal in your life can achieve. Is it clear? What we are doing? We are simplifying the quote. What we are doing? We are simplifying the quote. Then the step number two. Step number two is to step number one, what you need to simplify the quote, the core message or the core value. The core message or the core value that is being talked about, you need to provide that वो बात क्या कर रहे हैं. Then the step number two is to give a philosophical depth or to give a philosophical depth into this particular quote that is being asked. So we have given a philosophical depth where we have provided that it will be giving you a perpetual motion, it will be helping you in gaining the mastery, it will be helping you in gaining the resilience. Is it clear? So you can give a philosophical insight here. Then the step number three, what you can do? Into the step number three, you can provide You can provide the contemporary examples where such kind of a message has been adopted and something good has happened. You can give the contemporary examples that how such values have been followed and something good has happened. So contemporary examples which support this particular quote can be. Now, what contemporary example you can give here? So certain contemporary examples which could be given here is that number one at the level of nation, at the level of nation, we see this particular thing that when we talk about India, you know this particular thing that after the independence, India was born into a scientific poverty. There was a scientific poverty. Scientific research institutions were not there. Scientific community was not that much strong. And with the perseverance, India today has the world's advanced space organization, ISRO. We have one of the most advanced space organization of the world, ISRO. We have been successful in launching the Mars mission. Now we are also ready to explore the sun through the Aditya missions. The GSLVs and the PSLVs are the workhorses which have not been appreciated, which have not helped India in putting the satellites into the orbit, but it has been appreciated by the world countries, and the services of GSLV and PSLV are taken by other countries also. So India started with a scientific poverty when there was no experience and there was no research institution, but today we had created one of the finest space organization of the world, ISRO. How it happened? It happened by the constant continuous perseverance that has been maintained. It has happened just by the continuous perseverance of our scientific community. Second example आप ले सकते हो, when India started the nuclear program. When India started the nuclear program, every country shunned India. Nobody was ready to give the support. We were not given the membership of the MTCR, Missile Technologies Control Regime. We are not given the membership under the NSG. Even India did not sign the NPT. India did not sign the CTBT. Okay. But what happened today? Because of the India's perseverant actions, because of the India's perseverance that India has always maintained, what happened? India excelled here so much that today the MTCR's membership is given to India. Even into the nuclear supplier group, India is being given a waiver. And India's nuclear research program is now its metal has been accepted by the countries such as the US. So India's success into the nuclear program in the ISRO, it is because of the perseverant efforts that has been taken by India. Then, second example we can take at the level of society, one particular segment of society or one particular community. Today we find this particular thing. See, watch kya ho raha hai? We are in the times of pandemic. Today we are in times of pandemic, and around the world, the scientific community, find the medical community, they are trying to find the cure. They are trying to find the cure for the COVID-19. Now, finding the cure for the COVID-19, it also needs the perseverant efforts are needed. If the perseverant efforts will be needed, we can find the cure. Clear? And because of the perseverant efforts, vaccines we got discovered, and many more efficient vaccines will be discovered into the times to come. So through the perseverant efforts of the medical community, we are able to find the cure of COVID-19. Not up the cure, rather the vaccine we have found and the cure we will find. Vaccine we have found and the cure we will find. Fine. At the individual level, you can take the example of Deepa Kamarkar. Now, the Deepa Kamarkar's example can be taken. She is Olympian. She won the bronze medal into the Commonwealth Game of 2014. She faced the abject poverty. There was no funding. She cannot afford any kind of world-class training, equipment. No support was there. Physical, human, financial, no support was there. But through her perseverance, through her hard work, she reached the Olympics. She won the bronze medal into the Commonwealth Games of 2014. So at the individual level, what a person can achieve through the perseverance, it could be learned from the Deepa Kamarkar, Olympian Deepa Kamarkar. So at the individual level, at the level of one particular community, and at the level of country, we have seen that how the perseverance helps. How the perseverance helps. Clear? Now, देखो अब जब भी आप quote पढ़ोगे, in the quote it will be given that what it means to you. So when you explained that okay, what perseverance, when we talk about the perseverance means it helps us maintaining the perpetual motion. You are showing what it means to you. When I told you that perseverance ensures that you attain the mastery, you are showing that what it means to you. And while giving this particular example, you are further augmenting, you are further substantiating your points. Is it clear? Now, your interpretation that how the perseverance can be gained. Your interpretation that how the perseverance can be gained. So, perseverance can be gained, number one, by having a right resolve. You need to maintain a right resolve. Number two, you need to maintain the emotional courage, emotional fortitude. Setbacks will come, but you will not become emotionally weak. Emotional fortitude, courage needs to be there. Thirdly, by having the by following the delayed gratification, you will always enjoy your result. You will always enjoy your victory. You will always enjoy the fruit of your victory towards the last. So by practicing delayed gratification, then learn the perseverance. So you can provide this like this, that I believe that the perseverance can be learned by practicing delayed gratification, by imbibing the fortitude or emotional courage, or by maintaining a right resolve. ठीक है. अब देखो एक चीज और आपको one practical advice I will give you here. See, though it is asked that okay, what it means to you, but I will say that don't write it in active voice. Write in a passive voice. Write as per a third person. Okay, so don't use that I will do this, myself I will do this, because many times it doesn't gives a mature look to your answer. So use it in a write the answer into the passive voice. Fine. So this is one thing. Now, fine. This is the approach that you can follow into the quote based questions. Fine, guys, is it clear to everyone? Okay, so as I can see here, okay, fine. It is as of now the things looks good. Now as we move the other quotes, the other quote are which are there. Okay, we have another quote, question number 3b. Now this quote is by the Dalai Lama. We can never obtain the peace in the outer world until and unless we obtain peace within ourselves. So Dalai Lama, what Dalai Lama says? Dalai Lama says that the peace lies within you. Now this quote is a message centric quote. Earlier quote was value centric quote. This quote is a message centric. So the same approach that we have used, you can clear. Now step number one, what you will do, you can simplify the message that has been given in the quote. Now, what is the simplified version of this particular message? Here you can provide that in the above mentioned quote, Dalai Lama provides that the condition of tranquility, the peace, a person, the peace should be found within one's conduct, within one's own mindset. A peace should be found. If a person will be at peace, if a person is calm in himself, is it clear? He will be able to maintain the congenial relation with the outside world. Is it clear? Nobody apart from you can provide you the peace. Nobody apart from you can provide you the happiness. Is it clear? A person's contentment, a person's satisfaction, a person's happiness is just dependent on his mindset. It is just dependent on his thoughts. Clear? External person or external agency doesn't have the power to make you feel happy, to make you feel contented, to make you feel peaceful, to make you feel blissful. So a person has a utmost control in what he feels. Is that clear or not? Now, basically, we can provide this particular thing. Now, second is to put a philosophical substance into this particular quote. Now, you can put a philosophical substance into this particular quote. We can provide here the reference of the Stoics. Now, what the Stoics have said? The Stoics has given the idea of serenity. The Stoics has given the idea of serenity. And according to the Stoics, the serenity can be found. Serenity can be found within. Fine. Through controlling your impulses, through controlling your desires, you can find a serenity. And the concept of serenity which can be discovered within by controlling your desires, by controlling your emotions. It is similar to the Dalai Lama's quote, where Dalai Lama says that we can never obtain the peace in the outer world unless we obtain the peace within ourselves. So until and unless you attain a serenity within, fine, outless world is used. Until and unless it is found inside, you cannot have it in the outer world. So the Stoics idea can be used here. Fine. Then further into this particular direction, we can provide that the value of internal peace, the value of internal peace, okay, it has also been talked about in Bhagavad Gita. Now Bhagavad Gita advises this particular thing, that a person, fine, he can, first of all, he need to attain the control on his own internal desire, his internal. Is clear? Only once a person had controlled his internal desires, he will be able to deal with the outside world. Clear? After that, the step number 3, show the contemporary examples, that why this particular thing into the present times makes sense. So the contemporary example could be given. See, if we talk about individual level, if a person who is dissatisfied with himself, he can never put his heart and his mind in his duty, in his public life. Fine. Second, if an IAS officer, if a public servant, if he is not dissatisfied, if he had not found the peace within it, if he is still driven by impulses, negative emotions with the greed, etc., what can happen? He can never work for the outside peace. He cannot bring the justice for the society. He cannot bring the welfare of the people. Fine. In the same way, a country which has not found the internal peace within the country, if the different segments of societies are not living with cordiality, in a kind of a harmony, then that particular world cannot preach the peace to the outside world at the global stage. So number 1, you have to obtain the peace within yourself. Once within yourself you had obtained the peace, we can look to the external world, or the fundamental message that has been given. Fine. Now your happiness, fine, lies within. The peace is found within. Fine. So this is the way in which we will be answering this particular thing. Now further moving on. The third question into this particular line. Life doesn't make any sense. Life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. We need each other, and the sooner we learn that it is better for us all. Life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. Now this particular quote, guys, again the same 5 steps you can use. Now this particular quote talks about the mutual dependence with each other. It talks about the value of social connection. It talks about the value of mutual cooperation. Is it clear? It talks about the symbiotic relations. Now the symbiotic relations, this mutual cooperation, it becomes very much important in the times of the pandemic. Clear? Because in the times of pandemic, a collective suffering onto the human being has come, and only interdependence, helping each other, can help us. Clear? The sooner we learn that, it is better for. As soon as we can realize that the human cannot work in isolation. See, no island has achieved the greatness, only the continents have achieved the greatness. Here, this is one corresponding idea that is there. And for that particular matter, see, there is one more approach of answering the quote based question, is that you can provide another quote which goes into that particular line in your introduction. This is one more way of addressing the quote based questions. Right? So life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. Fine. Life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. We need each other, and the sooner we learn, that is better for all. Okay? So the importance of mutual interactions, relationships, interdependence, and social connection is being talked about here. And all such kind of things are very much important into the present times. It is very much important into the present times. Is it clear? Now, we find this particular thing, that at the level of individual, we are the social animals. Human beings, we are the social animals, and none of us can fulfill the needs at their own. We need the cooperation, we need the support, we need the mutual help of each other. Is it clear? In this way only the societies can be built. Clear? At the level of society, at the level of society, we need the interdependence on each other. We need the cooperation with each other. Then only the growth, the development, then only the innovations can come. Then only the inventions can be made. Then only the collective development can be made. At the level of world, the interdependence is the rule, and the different countries need to realize this thing. The globalization is one of a force which had realized, which had brought the interdependence within the world countries. Clear? And by this particular thing, what has happened? The standards of living has improved. Fine. The standards of the standards of living has improved. The income standards, they have improved. Is it clear? Many of the socio-economic indicators, they have improved. In the times of pandemic, this particular thing was observed, that there is a lot of interdependence. The response of the world countries was this, that decoupling was taken because the interdependence got increased, but that thing helped. That thing had not helped. So interdependence is the universal rule that can be followed. Is it clear or not?